I'm going to show you how to make a vintage hanging ladder and turn my space from this to this. I'm going to be distressing some new timber and make it look like it's 100 years old. These are all the tools and materials required to make a vintage hanging ladder. The first part is making the actual ladder, but then the fun part really comes into it where we get to distress it. So let's get started and I'll show you how it can be done. The piece of timber you purchase will be stamped, so the first step is to sand that off. Like a lot of the steps in this project, don't worry about making it perfect because it doesn't need to be. Be as rough as you like. I've left some of the red stamp there to help add to the vintage look. From here I'm just going to cut it down to a more manageable size and then rip the sides. I'm going to rip both of these pieces because most antique ladders were quite narrow, but you can have it as thick as you like. Measure, mark and drill where you want your rung holes to be, making sure that they're evenly spaced. When using a spade bit, make sure the diameter of it is the same as your piece of dowel. You don't want to drill all the way through, so you can use a piece of tape as a guide. The reason for this is you want your rungs to be set at an even depth, and that ensures that that happens. Measure, mark and cut your dowel to your desired length. That will create the rungs for your ladder. Now the fun part begins. This is where you get to really distress a lot of the timber and give it that real vintage look. I'm going to start with the rungs of the ladder. I'm going to use a utility knife to taper off the ends. From there, I'm going to distress it up with a rasp, chisel and file, but you can use whatever you like. You'll notice the tapered edges are really rough, which is exactly what you want. You don't need to worry about making it perfect and pretty. Use a rasp to create some really old texture in the actual timber itself. I'm going to use a belt sander to wear down the centre part of my rung so it looks really well worn and centuries old. It's great to use the sandpaper to create some flat spots on the rung further round. Continue roughing up the sides of your ladder like you did your ladder rungs. That way it all blends and looks like it's all one piece when it's complete. All the pieces are now ready to put together. To do that, I'm going to use some PVA glue and bullet head nails. I'm going to get a friend to give me a hand to help stabilise it while I nail it together. For a few of the nails, I'm going to make sure it's securely holding the rung of the ladder, but then I'm going to bash them over so that way it looks like it's been repaired. Use wood putty to fill the indents, remembering you don't need it to be filled all to the top because it's not the effect that we're going for. Once the putty's dried, give it all a light sand and it will literally look like old paint that has been left there from years before. Stain the ladder using a rag to apply it. There's no need to use a brush. Remember, it doesn't need to be perfect, you can just slap it on. Now that the ladder's dry, use a heat gun to create some burn effects, focusing on the indents and the holes that have been drilled and around the rungs. The ladder is now char grilled and showing all the definition it needs to. Give it a wax, which will help bring out the colour and texture of the wood. It will also benefit later on when we're doing a final sand because that sawdust will bond with the wax and make it really pop. Fill the indents with spack filler, allow it to dry and then give it a light sand. This will give it the effect of looking like paint from years ago. All that's left to do now is just go over it roughly with another coat of stain just to give our spack filler a bit more of an authentic look, and then it's all ready to use. And there you have it, it's all done, ready to be placed in whatever room you like. How great does this vintage hanging ladder look? I've used mine to hang my blankets on because they're always a pile on the floor, but who knows, next week I'll probably use it for my magazines. It's so versatile, it can be used in any room. It can be a bedroom, a bathroom, a garage, or even the man cave.